In the grand candle-lit halls of Tudor England, beneath glittering chandeliers and golden tapestries, walked a woman who ruled the world's mightiest empire. The Virgin Queen, Queen Elizabeth I. To her people she was divine. The Gloriana, the living symbol of power, purity and perfection. But behind that royal mask of beauty and grace was something truly rotten. Imagine this: jeweled gowns crusted with pearls, a crown that shimmered in the sunlight, and beneath it all the body of a woman who barely bathed. Yes, the woman who commanded armies, who silenced kings and poets alike, was hiding a secret that would make even her loyal courtiers hold their breath, quite literally. You see, in the 16th century, cleanliness was a luxury and even a danger. People believed bathing too often could invite illness, that warm water might open the body's pores to deadly disease. So even the Queen of England, surrounded by wealth beyond imagination, chose to live in layers of silk, sweat and perfume, instead of soap and water. Her beauty, her elegance, her godlike image, all built upon powders, oils, and the illusion of purity. But history has a cruel way of revealing the truth. Because beneath the jewels and the velvet, Queen Elizabeth's royal hygiene would shock the modern world. Her servants dared not whisper of it. Her portraits could never show it. But the truth stank, and it all began with one royal confession, words that would echo through history. I bathe once a month, whether I need it or not. In part 2, we reveal the first shocking secret, how England's most powerful woman became known as the Queen who rarely bathed. They called her the shining light of England, but in truth, that light flickered through the scent of unwashed silk and stale perfume. Queen Elizabeth I, ruler of an empire, master of diplomacy, beloved by poets, was, by our modern standards, shockingly unhygienic. In her own words, she bathed once a month, whether I need it or not. To us, that sounds unbelievable. But in the 1500s, bathing was feared. Doctors warned that too much washing could weaken the body, open the pores and let diseases creep in. And so the Queen, like most nobles of her age, simply stopped. Instead, she performed what she called dry cleansing. Each morning, her servants brought bowls of rosewater and vinegar-soaked cloths, not to wash but to wipe. They dabbed her neck, her hands, her face, careful not to ruin the heavy white makeup she wore. It wasn't cleanliness. It was a ritual, a royal illusion of purity. Her magnificent gowns, woven with gold thread, crusted with pearls, were never washed. They were too valuable, too fragile. Instead, they were sprinkled with perfume, dusted with powders, and re-worn for weeks. Sometimes months. Imagine the layers of sweat, dust and perfume blending into a scent that no candle could mask. Even her courtiers struggled to endure the odor. But no one, not even her closest ladies-in-waiting, dared to speak. To mention the Queen's smell was treason against her perfection, so the Queen continued her rule, wrapped in silk powdered in rose and crowned with glory, unaware that beneath it all, her body was slowly decaying in filth. But if her body was unwashed, her teeth were worse. In part 3, discover how England's most powerful woman smiled through pain. With teeth so black, her courtiers copied the rot. If the Queen's body was cloaked in filth, then her smile was her darkest secret of all. Queen Elizabeth I, the woman whose face was painted on coins and portraits across the world, had a mouth full of rotting, blackened teeth. The Tudor court was obsessed with a new luxury from the colonies: sugar, a rare, expensive delicacy that only the rich could afford. To the Queen, it was a symbol of power and pleasure. Candied fruit, sweet wine, sugar-dusted bread. She devoured them all. But there was one problem: no toothbrushes, no toothpaste. Dental hygiene in the 1500s meant little more than rubbing teeth with a rag or rinsing with wine. And so over the years, sugar slowly destroyed her royal smile. By her 40s, her teeth had turned dark, decayed and painful. Ambassadors described her breath as unbearable. Her jaw often ached, and her speech, once sharp and commanding, began to slur. But Elizabeth was far too proud, far too vain to let the world see weakness. She refused to have her rotten teeth pulled, afraid her face would collapse. So she painted her lips darker, smiled less, and when she did smile, it revealed a mouth that was more shadow than pearl. And in one of history's strangest turns, her courtiers, desperate to flatter her, began blackening their own teeth with soot and charcoal. If the queen's teeth were dark, then so must be the teeth of those who loved her. Rot somehow became fashion. It was the ultimate illusion of loyalty, to imitate decay, in honor of a dying beauty. But her teeth weren't the only part of her body suffering under her vanity. For beneath the silks and jewels, another secret festered, hidden beneath layers of filth, sweat, and lace. In Part 4, we uncover the grime beneath the glamour, the truth of the filth beneath the silk. Beneath the gold and lace of England's most powerful woman lay a secret no portrait dared to show. Queen Elizabethan, the radiant Virgin Queen, was rotting beneath her royal armor of silk. Every day she was dressed in layer upon layer, a linen chemise, a stiff corset, a petticoat, a farthingale to widen her skirts, then gown upon gown, velvet, lace, brocade, until she could barely move. Each piece tied, pinned, and stitched by her ladies-in-waiting. But once she was dressed, she stayed dressed. These garments were never truly cleaned. Linen was precious, washing was laborious, and water, as her doctors warned, was dangerous. So the queen's underclothes absorbed sweat, perfume, and the dust of the court day after day. Some records say her gowns could stand upright on their own, stiff with grime, oils, and old rosewater, and yet to her courtiers she appeared perfect, glowing, untouchable, divine. Because no one dared to imagine the smell beneath the silk. Her attendants, sworn to silence, endured it quietly as they laced her stays tighter and tighter, covering the odor with lavender sachets and powdered herbs. Even her royal bedding, draped in velvet and trimmed with gold, was rarely changed. The queen believed that constant washing of linens could thin the spirits and bring weakness, so her sheets were merely aired and perfumed, not scrubbed. Perfume replaced soap, silk replaced cleanliness, appearance replaced truth. Behind her flawless portraits was a woman trapped, not by politics or enemies, but by her own pride and superstition. She ruled a nation with iron will, but lived each day in a prison of lace, sweat, and illusion. And it only got worse. Because what she wore on her skin was nothing compared to what she painted on her face. Discover how Queen Elizabeth's famous beauty became her slowest and most painful death. They called her Gloriana, the Virgin Queen, a woman untouched by time, by men, by mortality. Her pale porcelain face became the symbol of divine power, but that perfect mask was slowly killing her. Every morning, Elizabeth's maids prepared her beauty ritual, jars of white paste, scented oils, crimson pigment. But the main ingredient of her signature makeup, the one that gave her that ghostly glow, was something truly deadly, Venetian ceruse, a blend of white lead and vinegar, smooth and luminous, and highly toxic. With every layer she applied, it seeped into her skin, burning, blistering, and poisoning her blood. Over the years, her skin began to crack and swell. Sores appeared. Wrinkles deepened. Her once radiant face became fragile, a mask of pain, but Elizabeth couldn't stop. Her power, her image, her identity, all depended on that perfect white skin. So she covered the damage with even more makeup, painting over her wounds with poison. By her later years, witnesses described her as a living ghost, her hair thinning, her teeth black, her face so thick with lead that it cracked when she smiled. Even her wigs were dusted with white powder to hide the scars on her scalp. Ironically, the very substance that gave her eternal beauty brought her closer to death with every passing day. When she died in 1603, her physicians noted her skin was grey, her body frail, her blood thick with toxins. The queen who ruled with brilliance and pride had been slowly poisoned by her own vanity. She defeated empires, outlived her enemies, and shaped an era that still bears her name. But even a queen cannot escape the truth that lies beneath the powder and perfume, because in the end, Queen Elizabeth, I wasn't just a ruler of nations. She was a prisoner of her own perfection. The queen was aging. Her beauty faded, her skin cracked, her teeth blackened. But Queen Elizabeth II, England's eternal Virgin Queen, refused to surrender to decay. And so she turned to her final obsession, the scent of life itself. Perfume. Her chambers were heavy with it, thick clouds of rose oil, lavender, musk, and ambergris. Servants burned herbs day and night, filling the air with sweet smoke meant to purify the body and the soul. Even her gloves were soaked in perfume until they shone with oil and left a scent trail wherever she went. To outsiders, the Queen smelled divine, like heaven itself. But that divine aroma was a disguise, a veil drawn over the truth. The perfume wasn't for pleasure anymore. It was to hide the stench of her own decaying body. As sickness consumed her, lead poisoning, rot, exhaustion, she locked herself away in candlelight. She refused to see her physicians. She refused to remove her makeup or her wig. She surrounded herself with perfumes, herbs, and smoke, believing that as long as the air smelled sweet, she was still the radiant Queen of England. But no scent could stop death. When she finally passed in 1603, her chambers were said to reek of a bitter mix of roses, vinegar, and decay. The Queen who once ruled the world had become a ghost beneath layers of silk and scent. And so ended the reign of Elizabeth I, the woman who wore power like perfume and ruled the world behind a mask of beauty, a queen worshipped for her purity, yet trapped in filth, vanity, and fear. She built her empire on illusion and died surrounded by it because even queens cannot perfume away the truth.